Algebra 2 Honors Cram, Skills Practice. Flashcard 5, Simplify Expressions Containing I. Skill Practice 2.6-16. And just as an aside, the imaginary number I is a number such that I squared is equivalent to -1. And because no real number exists such that its square is equal to a negative number, the number I is not a part of the real number system. So the values of I to the n, whether it be I to the first power, which of course is going to be equivalent to the square root of -1 for obvious reasons, or I to the second, or I to the infinity, after every fourth power, I repeats. Okay? So here we see that I to the first is equivalent to the square root of -1. If you square it, I squared is equivalent to -1. Hence, I to the third is equivalent to -1 times the square root of -1. If you multiply I to the first times I to the second, obviously you get I to the third. And then we see that I to the fourth, which is really just I to the third multiplied by I to the first, is going to give us the negative square root of -1 times the square root of -1, which is going to be -1 times -1, which is the same thing as saying 1. Okay? So that's just a brief overview of some of the logistics you encounter when dealing with the imaginary number I. Okay, so this is the expression, the complex expression that we're going to simplify. And just to give you some overview, the set of complex numbers is the set of all numbers that can be written in the form a plus bi, where a and b are always going to be real numbers. The term a is called the real part of a complex number, and the term bi is called the imaginary part of a complex number. And when you operate with complex numbers involving I, you have to combine like terms and treat I as a variable, even though it is a constant. It's the square root of -1. Okay, so just treat it as a variable. So, okay, in order to simplify, we're first going to combine like terms, the real portion written out first, and the imaginary portion of the complex number written second. Okay, now when we simplify further, we get 6 minus 3i. So this is our final answer. This really wasn't so bad. All right? Okay.